Bloodsuckers from outer space. Now, what can be said about this movie that hasn't been said already? Probably a lot, because I don't know what's been said about this movie, but I don't think most people know this movie exists. It came out in 1984, a year which I remember fondly. I was just born and had no responsibilities. People bathed me, people fed me, people took care of me. I didn't even have to use the bathroom on my own. I won't have that kind of care taken care of me. I'm old, feeble, and don't know where I am anymore. And I look forward to those days. So this movie involves aliens. It also involves bloodsuckers. And it is quite an interesting movie. So it opens, and we see a man on a farm doing farm work. He's feeding the chickens, he's feeding the horse, he's putting up barbed wire fencing. It's West Texas. And you know what they say about West Texas. So then a mighty wind blows, and they show up and they're playing their instruments and they're playing the horns and blah, 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 blah. No one's going to get that joke. So then he pukes up a lot of blood, and he turns and he lays back up, and he's got a blue face, and he goes, ah. And then the music hits, and the music is awesome. Classic 80s rock, Bloodsuckers from Outer Space theme song. And then we meet our hero, Jeff, who's going to a crime scene where people have been drained of blood. And we meet the person on the property whose their bodies are there. And he said it was the Satanists down at that church. And they say those people are Presbyterians. And I can tell you right now, Presbyterians might very well be Satanists. I met a few of them. And his cop friend tells him tells him to write they were killed by the elements and not to take pictures. So he suspects it was vampires. But he doesn't want a vampire rumor getting started. And then he goes to his aunt and uncle's house, where his uncle tells him he can either become a dairy farmer with him, or he's cut off from his inheritance. And he can't pursue his dream of being a professional photographer. Then we see his brother, Ralph, who's working at Research City. And I don't know why they named it Research City. It's not a city, but is a place they do research. I'm kind of thinking they weren't real creative in this movie. So it's kind of like Circuit City, but it's with research, not circuits. Now, I've never been in a Circuit City, but I can assure you that I believe they have circuits in there. And you can put one together, and then you can get shocked. I'm a champion of getting shocked by circuits. So Ralph is got Dr. Pace, the head of Research City, down, who is now a bloodsucker, and they are trying to experiment on him to figure out what it is. And then he takes 2 pills, and there's a hot British doctor there. Well, I think she's hot, but I'm into nerdy girls. And then we're back to Jeff, who's just driving around and has a flat tire but doesn't have a spare. And that's when we meet Julie, who picks up Jeff, and they go back to his house, and he tells her his problems, and she says there's only one answer. And then they have sex. So apparently sex is the answer to every question in life, which means I need to be having more of it. And then they go to his aunt and uncle's house, who are now bloodsuckers. And him and his uncle kung fu fight. Because every boy and his uncle should kung fu fight at least once in their life. But Jeff and Julie get away, and then General Sanders comes to Research City, I thought so. I thought at one point I was going to be a General Sanders, but then again, I thought maybe I'd be a Colonel Sanders, and people could make chicken jokes at me. General Sanders goes to Research City, and he doesn't meet with Dr. Pace. He meets with the scientists, and they tell him what's going on with these bloodsuckers, and he wants to find out how to kill them. And so the scientists walk off and go get drunk at a bar, except for Ralph goes back to Dr. Pace and thinks he's dead, which Dr. Pace was faking, and Ralph dies. So then Jeff and Julie are trying to get a hold of Ralph and go to the original guy we've seen die in the beginning's house. As Jeff makes a phone call, I'm assuming to Ralph. It might be to some other guy. I mean, we don't know who all Jeff knows. He might be calling the president, and the president just like, oh God, it's Jeff again. I'm not talking to that bastard. So then that guy attacks Julie, and Jeff cuts his head off, but he's not dead. And then Jeff goes to Circuit City with Julie, just as we're seeing the other scientists die. And Jeff and Julie get to Circuit City, just as Dr. Pace is giving a lecture on how Jeff is going to become a bloodsucker from outer space. So then Julie's car dies after they get away, and they cross a barren field for half a day's walk. Julie's car runs out of gas, and then they cross a barren field after half a day's walk to get gas, but the bloodsuckers show up. So they steal a car, because everyone in the 80s left their car keys in their car, which would make total sense if you lived in a horror movie. You'd want some way for someone else to get away. I do not live in a horror movie, so I do not leave my keys in my car. And they get away. And he makes sure to get Julie's stuff out of her car, including the nitrous tank that gets them high. Because drugs are always the answer. No, excuse me, sex is always the answer. Drugs is the secondary answer. Drugs and sex, they go hand in hand. Use them to solve your problems. So then they're getting away, and Jeff calls Sam, his cop friend, and they go over to his house, but Sam is now a bloodsucker along with his woman, who we've seen her boobs earlier. And they tell Jeff once again he's going to be turned into a bloodsucker and he's going to suck Julie. But we get out of another kung fu fight because Julie just punches Sam's girl in the face and knocks her out. Because Julie's a tough bitch. And so they're driving, and we see General Sanders again. He wants to use a nuke on Texas, which I don't know why anybody else hasn't thought of this before, because Texas just needs to be nuked. I'm just throwing that out there. He gets the president's permission to use a nuke on Texas. So then the mighty wind hits Jeff and Julie in a car with their windows down, but nitrous oxide tank, the air thing comes loose, and it fills the car as they roll the windows up, and Jeff does not become a bloodsucker. And they're out in the field expressing their love. No, we still don't get to see Julie's tits. I'm sorry. You never see Julie's tits in this movie. And then Colonel Sanders drops the nuclear bomb. Or nuclear missile hits that Colonel Sanders launched. And then we go back to General Sanders. And we find out his nuclear missile hit 50 miles away from any bloodsucker sighting on a Mennonite encampment. And both him and his major who works for him are going to be shot. Are going to be hanged for doing this. And we go back to the bloodsucker town where Jeff and Julie stole the car. And the bloodsuckers are just living free. And that is Bloodsuckers from Outer Space. Is it funny? Yes. Is it weird? Kinda. Is it a horror movie? I don't know if I count it as a horror movie. It's just weird and funny, and it has a kung fu fight in it that just comes out of nowhere. And it's just an interesting little movie. It's on Tubi. Check it out. Join me next week. Let's see. This week was Nitro Girls and Bloodsuckers. So next week is why Jim Cornette got fired from WWE and the Little Mermaid horror